talking to you here. And this is my M2 MacBook Air review. Yes, the M2 MacBook Air here, the computer that I've used for the past 2 weeks and has generated so much controversy on the tech world. This computer has rocked the tech world by storm. Tons of videos have been made, tons of reviews, tons of unboxings, but the more important thing were the two controversies created around this computer. The thermally throttle problem, the SSDs, then the fact that the M2 wasn't almost as good as the M1, and then the M2 base model, which is the main version here that I have, is best than the 10-core model. All of these controversies created for the sake of views. But today's video is different. Today's video is not about controversies. It's not about the problems with this computer. It's not a top 10 problems video. It's not me dismantling this computer to its core, taking out the components, exploring it. No, this is just a simple review of a guy that simply bought this computer and decided that it was worth to give a try, to see how it fitted its lifestyle. If you don't know, I use my M1 Max 16-inch MacBook Pro that I have there to edit all my videos and to essentially create this YouTube channel. While this M2 MacBook Air has been quite an experience in the last few days, I have to tell you that I will not keep this computer just because I have a better one right there that's better for me and fits me in every single way. And of course, it has more future-proof. It was a more expensive computer. They're not comparable. But if you want to compare them, I have a video on my channel comparing them in two and try to create an Apple Silicon Spectrum, because that's the most expensive but the best Apple Silicon computer that you can get. And this one is the cheapest and of course the worst in my opinion. But at the end of the day, this computer is still great. And in today's review, you will see that it still has a ton to give. So if you are interested in the M2 MacBook Air review, do not forget to drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and of course, turn on the notification bell so you can keep up with all my videos. Comment down below your thoughts on the M2 MacBook Air, and no further ado, let's get started. Let's start with the design of the M2 MacBook Air, because it's a familiar design for those that have seen the newer MacBook Pros, but for those that didn't, then this is a complete new design. This computer is very light, very thin to hold, and of course very easy and portable to carry around. One of the things that it's might well noted, this feels like a very small and thinned out version of the MacBook Pros, mainly the 14 and 16 inch. It's very different than the old generation of MacBook Airs with the wedged out design, and of course compared to the older M2 MacBook Pro current design that is available for $100 more, this MacBook Air is, in my opinion, much more modern and usable. I had a 13-inch MacBook Pro from 2016, if I'm not wrong, and that computer has still the same design as the M2 MacBook Pro, and I can tell you that that design is still getting old now. Like when you are using it, it's very sharp, it cuts into your hands. It's cool, it's thin, it's light, but in my opinion, this design is better. And of course, this midnight blue color is insanely cool. Although it picks up a ton, when I say a ton, is a ton of fingerprints. Like for me, just touching this computer now, it's already dirty, and I cleaned it before starting this video. So yes, this computer is quite an insane design. If you like the new M1 Max and M1 Pro MacBook Pro design language, then you will love this computer. It's a more perfected and of course thinner version of that design, and so it's very light, very easy to carry around. You won't have many problems to bring on your backpack, and it still has a 13-inch display, bigger than the M2 MacBook Pro. And of course, this design, in my opinion, you have to give credit to Apple, because this design is insanely cool. They did it for the M1 Max and M1 Pro MacBook Pros. I love this design for my computer, and now they have put it on this M2 MacBook Air, and I love this design so much, because either makes it more comfortable, and of course they managed to make it thinner. So this design is insane. One thing that is also cool is the trackpad and the keyboard on this laptop. The trackpad is the same as the older one, so it's the best trackpad in the business. Apple MacBooks have the best trackpad, and so you can buy this computer thinking that this is the best trackpad in business, because it is. The keyboard is also the great Magic Keyboard present on the M1 Max MacBook Pros and other Apple laptops. So the keyboard, the mouse, they are insanely good. Other things that are also good, but not as good as the M1 Max MacBook Pros or other high-end MacBooks, are the speakers. If you can notice on this computer, this one doesn't have the speaker grills on the side, just like the older MacBook Air had. Now, this computer has the speakers on behind the display, between the display and the computer body. So, I mean, it's different, like you have it there here, but in my opinion, the speakers sound about the same. The other M1 MacBook Air speakers were louder, in my opinion, because they had the grills, but not as good. These ones are more refined and better sounding. So, in my opinion, the speakers are still a little bit of an improvement. I made a comparison between these speakers and the best speakers present on every laptop available, the M1 Max MacBook Pro. So take a listen and let me know if you think the difference are that much.
Melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go through the wastelands, through the highways. And on we'll
So, as you saw or heard, the M1 Max speakers from the 16-inch computer present on the M1 Pro also version of this computer are insanely good. They are very loud, very bassy, while the M2 MacBook Air are a little bit less louder and a lot less bassier. So the difference is the space and the drivers on the speakers, but this computer has insanely good speakers for a very thin and small laptop like it is. So, in my opinion, this is a complete package for a portable computer in terms of design. It's thin, it's light, it's still very powerful, it has very complete I/O, like 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports if not mistaken, and 1 MagSafe port and a headphone jack. This MagSafe port might not be useful in your opinion, but it saves you a Thunderbolt 3 port when you are charging, so you always have 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports available. So this is a very cool feature present on the M2 MacBook Air. One other thing that is also amazing on the M2 MacBook Air is the webcam. It's a 1080p webcam, so it's the same as my M1 Max MacBook Pro. If you want to compare it to the M1 Max MacBook Pro and really see how good it is, then I made a comparison between these two, so watch it and let me know what are the differences. This is also a microphone test, which is also amazing on the M2 MacBook Air. Not as good as the M1 Max in my opinion, but like 95% as good. So watch it and let me know in the comments down below what is your opinion. This is the microphone and camera test for the M2 MacBook Air. This is a 1080p camera and I think it looks amazing for a webcam on a computer. The same probably as the M1 Max MacBook Pro, or a little bit better. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. This is the microphone and camera test for the M1 Max MacBook Pro 16-inch. Let me know how it looks on the comments down below. Then, of course, we move to a very important part of this computer and every laptop in general, which is the display. This computer features a 13-inch liquid retina display. Not a mini LED though, so that might be a disappointment for some people, but if you are looking for a mini LED display, you will have to go for the Pro computers. This is a 13-inch one, liquid retina, 60 Hz display. No promotion on this one. So this one actually misses on two very important key features and that I think that a MacBook Pro should have in the future of 2022, which is promotion and mini LED or even OLED. This computer doesn't have it. It has an LCD display, or like Apple likes to call it, a liquid retina display. But this is a simple LCD display with 500 nits of peak brightness. It's a very color accurate display. It's a P3 color gamut display. It's very good. It has no problems with off watching, and of course the angles here are insanely good. It's very well color balanced by Apple, and it's a 13-inch display. It's very good. It's almost the same as the M2 MacBook Pro's display, but a little bit better. And the reason is now the bezels were shrunk by a lot. This computer now features the new bezel size from the M1 Pro MacBook Pro 14-inch and the M1 Max MacBook Pro 16-inch. The bezels are insanely thin and they make this computer very much modern, because when you are looking at this display from a perspective of the present, like, it looks insanely cool, but when you compare it to the older MacBook Air, then you will see the difference of the bezels and you will think, wow, what a difference. So this display for a MacBook Air, especially compared to the M1 version, it's amazing. Amazing. It's one of the biggest, not the biggest, upgrades to this design, and I love it so much. Of course, when compared to the mini LED promotion display present on the M1 Max 16-inch, especially the 16-inch, which has a bigger, wider display, which can go to 1100 nits, and it has a 500 nits normal brightness, stable brightness with 1100 nits of peak brightness, then the difference starts to look at sort of visible. If you are not a tech person, you will be able to notice the difference when watching HDR videos even. That one is HDR compatible, this one isn't, but I recorded these computers while making this comparison, and of course, you will probably not able to notice any difference, just because, I mean, you are probably not tech guy. But if you are a tech guy and you can notice the difference, good for you. But if you're not, then I think you can see that this display is also amazing. And of course, that one on paper is much better, but in the real world performance, then the only thing that you will probably notice is the promotion. The HDR and extra capabilities of the mini LED, only if you are a display expert or a guy that likes really good displays. So the display on this computer, the 13-inch one, is insane, is very cool, and of course, let's take a look at it again. The bezels are very good. On this display, like I was telling you, there's a notch, just like on the 16-inch and the 14-inch computers. I mean, it's no problem. I have to tell you this, it's no problem. I've been using my M1 Max 16-inch computer with the notch for almost 9 months now, and no complaints about the notch. It houses the best webcam in every MacBook available, the 1080p version that you saw a few minutes ago in this video. So I think this is a great choice by Apple, just to put the notch. Many other manufacturers might not cut out the notch and put a very small webcam that's 720p, but I prefer that Apple just gives me a little extra space with the no bezel treatment and puts in a notch out there, because you are not losing display, you are just giving up a little bit of black bezel, because now you can get an extra few pixels with the menu bar being on the top. So like, this display is a 16 by 10 display, not a 16 by 9, so it doesn't cut in on your content, the notch. When you are watching content, everything is black on the sides, and so you won't notice the existence of the notch, like a very old MacBook. But let's not talk about the notch anymore. It's a no problem. So it's a no-brainer for that. People that want the M2 MacBook Air, do not even think about the notch. It's a very cool computer. It's noticeable when you have very bright and color, like red and orange on the Apple stores, but when you are using it, you will forget about it. So the notch is no problem. And this 13-inch LCD display is amazing, that Apple has been able to fit it on this price tag, which is $1199. Of course, this computer is not all sunflowers and daisies, because this computer has a 256 GB of storage and an 8 GB of RAM capacity at the base model. And that gives you a very big problem that wasn't present on the M1 MacBook Air, which was the speed of the SSDs. With the chip shortages, Apple has decided that it was time to save some money, because they wanted the computer to remain cheap for the entry model. So they removed an SSD ROM, and now you won't be able to have two 128, you will only have one 256. So the speed was cut in half, and in some tasks like Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, Photoshop, you will notice a difference on the speed, and it's very noticeable. It's around 40% decrease in speed. So if you are thinking of doing some serious work on your M2 MacBook Air, sometimes, not every time, because if you want to do serious work like every day, then buy a MacBook Pro. But if sometimes you want to do it on the go, then considering upgrading for the 512 GB of SSDs, and maybe if it makes sense for you, go for the 16 GB of RAM. Do not go for the 24 GB of RAM, neither the 2 TB version of the M2 MacBook Air, because it will put you very close or even further than the M1 Pro 14-inch, which is the base model one at $1999. And that computer is a much superior computer with 512 and 16 GB of storage, with no problems of the SSD speeds, and with an amazing display, M1 Pro chip, which is faster than the M2, and so much better I/O and other things. So yes, the thermal performance on the M2 is good. Yes, you can edit videos here. They are completely fine. 4K video, completely fine. But keep in mind that you will probably have to upgrade for the 512 at least, and the 16 GB. My perfect configuration for the M2 MacBook Air is the bin version of this CPU, because several tests have showed that the non-bin version doesn't have much performance gains over this one, and you can save $100 that will be put on the SSD and the RAM. So you will probably choose between those two, but in my opinion, you should upgrade only the SSD if you have the money to it. So go for 1 terabyte. In my opinion, it's the perfect size because in 4 to 5 years, you won't have any problem using this computer. While the RAM, it's a different story. If you use a computer for very RAM intensive stuff, then upgrade it for the 16 gigabyte version of the M2 MacBook Air, just because in the future, you won't be able to upgrade your RAM. This is all soldered in. So everything that you want to buy it right now. If you can and you don't mind buying external storage, then go for the 512 gigabyte version and for external storage. But in terms of performance, I think that's it. The single core for Geekbench is 1900 and the other one, the multi-core, is
8781.
But in terms of performance, this computer is good. It's very snappy, very bursty, and it's very good in bursty and snappy tasks like web browsing, streaming video. This is the perfect machine for that. If you are using Word, PowerPoint, this will work 200% good. So if you are a student, I highly recommend the M2 MacBook Air over an iPad. So the M2 MacBook Air is a great computer and a great performer. Only if you don't push it to the limits, because it thermally throttles. It doesn't have a fan, so you have to be careful with the heat. The temperatures on the processor can get to 100 degrees very fast if you are doing very intensive stuff. So be careful with the temperatures and do not do very high intensive stuff during a lot of time. If you are doing those types of tasks, do not buy the M2 MacBook Air, buy a MacBook Pro, especially the paste model M1 Pro 14-inch, which has no thermally constraints in my opinion, and it has a very fast and very capable M1 Pro chip. So the M2 MacBook Air is geared for more consumer type tasks and more consumer things, like it's geared for the normal consumer. That's why it starts at $1199 and not $2,000. This is an amazing machine. I very highly recommend it for you guys. If you are a normal consumer that's just looking for a computer for university, if you are a student, I highly recommend the M2 MacBook Air. A very fun, very good computer to use that looks great. It's very light, easy to carry around and easy to carry to university, to your work, to work everywhere that you want to. The display, amazing, great. It has the new display treatment, so we will feel that you have the new MacBook. It has good I/O, better than the last one, 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports that you can expand with adapters, 1 MagSafe port that works flawlessly, and the MagSafe cable is color matched to the M2 MacBook Air. So that's a very good thing. Thank you, Apple. Those computers didn't come with a color match cable. And of course, it still has the headphone jack, one of the last products from Apple to have it. And then with an amazing trackpad, keyboard, Mac OS, which is just the best software for a computer, no discussion here. This computer is just complete. And starting at $1199, $1299 or $1599, you will still have an amazing experience. Do not go further than that because it will start to go into MacBook Pro territory. So this is a computer very easy to recommend, in my opinion, to students and people that want to spend tons of money, but you are looking for a more powerful computer. Then you should go for the M1 Pro MacBook Pro 14-inch or even the M1 Pro MacBook Pro 16-inch if you really want and crave that bigger size display. So this has been my M2 MacBook Air review. What should you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you like this computer? Don't you like this computer? Do you think it's slow? Do you think it thermally throttles? Are you okay for Apple to remove the 128 SSD ROMs and put a 256? Are you okay from Apple to put the M2 chip, which is not as good as, I don't know, as it should be? It's a 1.5 M1. It's a M1S chip. So let me know all of that in the comments down below. Do you think the controversies were fair around this computer? In my opinion, I don't think so, but let me know also that on the comments down below. While you're there, do not forget to leave a like, subscribe to my channel. This has been Tech Sumer talking to you here. Bye.